Today, I am honored to be joined by Kip Hooks. He's the owner of Hooks Lincoln in Fort Worth, Texas, one of my favorite towns in all of America, a dealership that's been a cornerstone of the community for over 40 years. Known for delivering premium service without the premium price tag, Hooks Lincoln continues to raise the bar for what the modern dealership experience should look like. We're going to talk about the dealership's legacy, how they're handling 2025. We're going to dive into Kip's experience with the shop from FordDirect, a platform that's helping forward-thinking retailers like Hooks Lincoln find future-ready solutions with confidence. The place where we'll start is Hooks Lincoln Legacy. Hooks, well, they've been serving Fort Worth for 40 years. Kip, what do you think has contributed most to the dealership's longstanding success and reputation?
Well, Sean, I think a lot of it is our heritage. It's a long story I won't get into, but essentially my grandfather started in the car business way back in the 50s in Fort Worth, and then he had moved and bought a dealership actually in Granbury, and then we expanded to some other stores, and we had the Lincoln store in Weatherford, and we in 1981, and ended up moving it back to Fort Worth. So in a way, we've come full circle. But I'm third generation, and my oldest son is working here now, so we got the fourth generation on board. Heritage has a lot to do with that. The underlying or overarching, if you will, theme of what we do is I use the word grace a whole lot. And has a lot to do with the reason why we do things. But we have an incredibly great and loyal client base. We have very little turnover, and we take a lot of pride in that because we have a great team. We want to get the right people in the right seat on the bus, everybody going the right direction, that old cliche, but it's really important. I take hiring as one of the most important things we do. It can be daunting, but you're talking about not just the benefit of the organization, but the benefit of the person that you're speaking with and putting that person in a job that's going to support them and their family. So it's a big deal. So I think it all goes into that as far as that side of it. We're big on transparency, client satisfaction. Customer service is the heart of what we do. We are here to make sure that clients are happy and want to come back, and we do everything we can to make sure they're happy. So in a nutshell, that's a lot of it. So we're blessed to have a good location with a fantastic community. We've always been involved in our community. I've sat in elected positions. My father was in elected positions to serve our community. And so I think it all kind of comes together cohesively that makes us who we are. And that kind of builds on that heritage and tradition that I first mentioned.
Love hearing the history of folks like yourself and how long you've been in it, and really the chain of succession from where it started to where it is today. And I also love it when I hear little attributes of good to great. What a great book that is. Probably read through that thing 3 times, and having the right people in the right seats all go in the right direction. It matters so much that it's statistically proven in books like that. I shouldn't be surprised to hear you say that. Having met you and getting to know you a little bit. The next thing I want to ask you, how does Hooks Lincoln maintain its customer first philosophy across sales and service and ownership experience, especially in today's digital first world?
Well, that's the heart of what we do. And I believe that our focus on customer service will drive the profitability. Profitability won't necessarily drive customer satisfaction, but customer satisfaction will drive profitability. It's my belief and my approach to the business. All the decisions that we make are founded on one standard. And the very first standard that we address is best interest of Hooks Lincoln. And the best interest of Hooks Lincoln includes our clients. It includes our team, our staff. It includes ownership. It includes the company as a whole. If it's not in the best interest of Hooks Lincoln, then there's no more conversation. We stop there. It's the cornerstone of what we do. And that started with my grandfather. And I will tell you one quick little snippet. When Carl Sewell wrote his book, Customers for Life, I never bought it, but somebody had given me a copy of it. And I opened the book and I read the intro, and I closed the book and set it down, and I never picked it up again because everything I saw, my granddad had taught me. Not only taught me, but showed me. And I can tell you story after story from my grandfather to me, and things that my son doing and things that our team does all the time that are really, really cool stories. And I think that one of the most satisfying things that we can do is take care of a customer. When I talk to people about what what's your goal today? Well, it's not to make money. Everybody that puts 2 feet on the ground, goes to a job, is going to make money, support their family or whatnot. But what makes you different? It boils down to you have to find somebody to take care of. If we don't find somebody to take care of, then we've missed the point. Taking care of our customers is the heart of what we do. Everybody says that. I know everybody says that customer satisfaction is critical. It is, but it's gotten us to 3, now working on 4 generations in the business. And I'm blessed, I'm honored, I'm humbled, and I'm incredibly grateful that I've had that opportunity. And I'm thankful that that's embedded in me as part of the way that I approach this business and the way that I approach everything we do.
It's one of my favorite things about the car business is sometimes it's a repeating story of my grandfather taught me these lessons.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially, what you just said is that customer first philosophy across your whole organization in a fast paced, digital world where everyone's instant gratification is literally born out of the lessons that your grandfather taught you before the instant gratification digital first world kind of permeated every thought and expectation that we all have. It all comes back to something that was instilled in you a long time ago. Nearly half a century of success that you guys have had is not for nothing. That's a story worth being told. So there's a lot of people selling cars that do not have a story like that that's worth telling. So I love that. Would you mind this is totally up to you, but would you mind sharing even a little bit of your personal journey in automotive? What it's been like kind of getting to the point now where you're leading in the dealership when you have such a rich history?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I thought when I was at TCU, I planned on going to law school. I just thought I was going to go be a lawyer, and that's what I wanted to do. And I'll try to make this as short as I can, but it's kind of the road that got me here. I'm sitting in a marketing class my junior year. It's in the spring. And I remember looking out the window at the courtyard, and it was green, and Dr. Ship was the professor. He was talking about how many jobs are related to the auto industry at that time. This was a long time ago, granted, but still the impact that this industry has on everyone is tremendous. And I wanted to run a business, and it dawned on me, here's one that maybe I can go be part of that one. And so ended up getting in the business. Of course, I've had, when I was much younger than that, when I was a kid, I'm washing cars on the wash rack, and I've had the privilege, the opportunity to do every job in this dealership, from the wash rack to my chair. And that helps me understand with my staff. I think it helps to relate to what they're doing when I can, this is what we used to do, or I understand that this is important. This is the way we have to do things. I think that helps a lot. When I first started getting into doing more with the store, I can remember sitting down with my father and saying, I'm going to take this from you. So you've given me an opportunity that I'm grateful for. From this point forward, I'm just going to start taking things to do them and handle them. And I look for your guidance at times, and at times you won't need to give me guidance. So I really have had the chance to do everything here, and never ever did I want a title. The only title that I ever wanted was this one. And I'm grateful and again, blessed that I've had the opportunity, but I've worked really, really hard for a lot of time. In the middle of all that time, I did actually go back and get my law degree. And people are like, what are you doing? Are you leaving? I was like, it's just, there were uncertain times. We've gone through uncertain times many times. I was like, well, if it needs to give me options, it gives me options. But it's an education that can be beneficial in many aspects of this business, and it is. All I've done has been to lead me to this seat and this opportunity to be able to lead this business and this organization and do the very best I can and reflect myself, my family, my name, our heritage, be a reflection of our staff and what we do to our community and everyone. I don't know if that really answers the question necessarily, but that's kind of my journey from where it all began to where we are now.
I think it definitely does. You mentioned that this industry from time to time has uncertainty. It seems like there's always something that whenever we get settled, there comes a new uncertainty. And so I want to ask you about that now with 2025 well underway. I think some of the shifts and differences out there are a bit obvious, probably impacts some brands more so than others. But what shifts have you been seeing maybe in customer expectations or buying behaviors this year? Any big differences that you guys have had to prepare or handle differently?
Yes, Sean, it's been really, I guess you could say, since COVID. Nothing is predictable. I mean, not that business was ever predictable, but you would see trends and you could not kind of know, well, it's like I don't even know if we found the new normal yet after all this time. I mean, but we've been hit with one thing after another, whether it's, a pandemic or a chip crisis, or, we've got models that are not going to be produced, or quality issues, or now we're dealing with tariffs. That being said, the uncertainty that hits the market is the biggest, I guess, hurdle that we have to overcome a lot of times, because I mean, if they're not in the market, you really don't have anybody to sell to. You can try to create a market, but you can't create a big enough market when you're dealing with the uncertainty of a market and the buyer. Then it's really hard to plan around. Just because we throw $1 million at advertising, I didn't. It doesn't mean that you're going to get somebody to come buy a car. If there's uncertainty, you see the market's off as a whole, then the market's off as a whole. Right now, at this specific time, the tariffs that's a big question on consumers' minds. We have some aggressive approaches with it through the factory. We're trying to do the best we can with what we're given and play to win with the rules of the game that we have. We can affect a market, but we can't create a market. When they're off like that, then we have to find the next solution. So the approach to the uncertainty in the market is ever changing, and we have to adapt to what we have in front of us and do the best that we have with our resources and what's available.
It leads into the next thing I want to ask you relative to technology and kind of the role that it plays, whether it's in vehicle tech, operational, marketing, like how is that playing in its way of shaping your dealership's strategy, whether it's current or even things that you're thinking about future wise? Are you guys like heavy on the tech side?
We try to be. Yeah, we try to be, because tech facilitates. Again, you go back to what I just said, where it's, no matter what, the vast majority, not 100%. I don't think you can say all or nothing on anything really, with regard to a market especially, but it's still the emotional experience and it's of getting a new car. And it's a big expenditure. It's a big purchase for a lot of people. And the tech, so I'm saying that to say that there are those that exist who would like to do an Amazon style car buying purchase. But we've seen with another brand where they've enjoyed the purchase experience and not cared for the ownership experience that much, because they either needed someone they knew or they could trust or they could go to help them and understand them. It's not a black and white thing. It's not digital. We try to use the tech to facilitate. It's another means of communication, and communication is obviously critical with our clients, whether we're talking to them for the first time or the 80th time after they've been driving their Navigator, or if they need something. It's a conduit. It's a means of communication, but it can be a means of finding those other people too. When maybe we can't create a market, but we're trying to find everyone we can possibly engage with. There's crazy technology that can help you find who might be interested. And we try not to get on the creepy side, because I've been in demos of a few things that are pretty creepy, and I don't want to be that way. I'm not going to go snooping on people, but I think that technology really has improved the way we do things, because we operate in a single point of contact. And without technology, we wouldn't be able to sit there and sit in front of a client and provide the information we need to provide to them to answer their questions, to resolve their concerns, and to keep them happy about what they're doing. If you're trying to look at the emotional curve, we don't want ups and downs throughout the process. We want to make each step better than it was, with the top being taking delivery, and then have a really great ownership experience thereafter. So the technology does help us with that. And it certainly played a role in us moving to the single point of contact years ago. And the people who purchase here, because back to that model that they love the purchase, don't like the ownership, we try to use that experience where they can use it all the way through. You choose to use it, it's there for you. If you don't, pick up the phone, walk in the door, whatever it takes.
I love that you tie it back to all that, that the relationship with the customer and what you're able to do to improve on their behalf. I've always had a really higher level of interest in technology with dealers than maybe a lot of people, because it's, for me, the explosion of technology is pretty much when I really jumped in the river. I'd been in the car business for a long time, even before the internet, but when the internet blew up, I was so interested in all of that side of the car business. But I've also been fascinated over the past 30 years at how many companies are constantly throwing new technology into retail without, I think, asking questions like we're talking about now, of helping to make sure that dealers are actually taking advantage of, or they even know whether it solves a problem that they have, as opposed to just layering on more and more tech, when essentially it's a business based on, we're selling vehicles and service experiences, and you might be adding layers of technology that complicate that. But what you're talking about is trying to have always a focus on, does this have a facilitation effect for us? Does it bring efficiencies into our operation, how we provide to our customers? I think that's probably the most lucid, well thought approach for any dealership to have, because it can be daunting. And when you've got new stuff coming out all the time, and the pressure that you feel, and then all dealers really probably feel to some extent, can be massive. Like the expectation to know all the new acronyms that came out last year. It's like, what are you guys even talking about? It's like, so I really appreciate the answer, and I appreciate that focus. Before I start to ask you a little bit about the shop, I can't wait to ask you a little bit about that. I have one more question that I'm always fascinated by in retail as well, and it's kind of around employee development and culture, because this is a time period. It's been this way now for several years, but how do you think about that? What's your approach to employee development? You mentioned that you have low turnover, which is amazing. You're a giant among not very many giants when it comes to that type of an issue. But in this particular time, how do you think about recruitment and retention? And it's so critical to dealership performance. I'd love just to hear your thoughts on that topic.
Well, that's a great perspective and a great question. I think it's something that is a daily concern, and because it doesn't take a lot to ruin something that you've taken a long time to build up. And culture is something we focus on all the time. And I'll be the first to tell you, it's just something that has to be addressed, and it's a priority. The team around here, the staff around here, they need to know that I have their back, that I'm here to help them any way I can. But we have to work together, and working together is at the heart of what we do. I can't do every job here. We have to work together to get things done. More importantly, to take care of our clients, because if we're not all working together, then they're only going to get a single perspective. But overall, with our staff, training is incredibly important. I'm looking for things that may be available that we can use that will help, even in that digital world. When I want to look at something that can help us to communicate. You might have a great communicator who verbally communicates well, but just the written word doesn't come to them. Well, I want to provide something that can help them understand how to put their thoughts from their head instead of here, but here, and send that to a customer, because sometimes people don't have time for a phone call, and text is easier. But culture is critical. It's hyper critical to what we do. And it's so hard when you might have somebody you think is going to be great, but just completely disrupts your culture. When you disrupt something that's going well and make it worse, then that has to be addressed. I'm looking to hire people who are good people, who are coachable, who are driven, who are passionate, and who want to be here. And those people, when we find those people, maybe they're hard to find, but when you find them, you hold on to them, because those are the people that drive your culture. And then if you have the things that poison your culture, they have to be addressed and carved out, not the person necessarily, but sometimes the actions or the attitude or the behavior, whatever it may be. And if something's driving that from a person, then you need to find that. So you got to drill down and find out what is causing this glitch in our culture, if you will. You can feel it. You can feel it when it's off. When it's off, it's like you see people who are down and not happy, and it's like, what is going on? We've got to be excited about what we're doing and want to be here. And when people don't want to be here, that's a concern. That's a big concern. So yeah, it's a big piece of what we do.
It certainly is a part of any business that requires effort. And I've said this a number of times, but there are a lot of different things that come into play, one of which, though, is care. And caring about something, it can't be faked, maybe for a short period of time, but not very long, because caring requires your time. And your answer to that question, without you even saying explicitly, well, I have to be conscious of the time, and I have to be deliberate about something like culture and, team management and those dynamics, because if you don't care about it, it will not take long at all before people realize that, and then the whole thing falls apart. So no matter how you look at it, you probably look at it as also part of the blessing and the opportunity to do what you do as a leader. I mean, you said in this interview already that you have the job you wanted. You wanted that role, and it comes with things like that.
Maybe I didn't know what I was thinking, but
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it comes with things like that, which for anybody that's ever been in a role where, culture and managing a team and keeping the ship balanced, if you've ever had that role, you realize that it's not easy. It's actually really difficult. And there's a lot of pressure in that, because people go home or they come to work in a particular mood that's oftentimes dictated by how things are being led and how much somebody really cares about that. So I appreciate you weighing in on that answer.
well, I think you said care, and I don't know that the actual word or came out of my mouth, but care is I said it, if I didn't, I defined it, because care is, it's hard when you have someone who doesn't care. It's hard to make them care. And
So I'm going to pivot now. The last handful of questions I have for you, we're going to talk about the shop. So FordDirect brought the shop to life. I think it's probably been about a year, maybe, that they've been at it. And I want to ask you a few questions relative to it. The first one is, what first led you to explore the shop as a platform for vendor selection and dealership support?
Courtney Douglas, that's what led me to the shop.
Okay.
Courtney is an amazing lady, and I think the world of her. And she was talking to me about it. And I was like, if that's what you're talking about, I should go look at it. I'm going to look at it. So I did. And then I got to talking to Beth, and we've had multiple conversations with them and telling me like, hey, this is available. Is this something you'd be interested in? I'm like, well, yeah, makes sense. I mean, that saves a lot. That makes a lot of sense to me. And so, yes, I would certainly be interested in something like that. Just from my perspective, if it matters, yes, it makes a difference. And so, you go check it out and see what it has to offer. And lo and behold, there's a lot of value there.
So they were getting the word out, and your ears heard it. So you jumped in there.
Yeah, they did. She came straight to me and said, hey, you need to check this out. Tell me what you think. And I was like, yes, ma'am, I will. So, and I like it.
Well, how has using the shop helped Hooks Lincoln in terms of maybe improvement of operations or any reduction of friction or maybe uncovering new solutions that you might not have found otherwise?
Well, I mean, it's been really helpful because you're looking at things that are specific to what we do. Now, a lot of the things that you might be looking for, there are things in there that will address what your needs are. Within that, I've gone to it and used it for some things, but I like that things are vetted, that, this is something that's going to be applicable to you and your business. It's something that FordDirect has said, vouched for, if you will. They put their stamp on it, then that adds value, as it should, to anyone who is in my position looking for different technologies and vendors to do business with. So to me, it's a shortcut, if you will. Not only is it a shortcut, it's convenient and it's accessible and it's right there and you already have an in. To me, it's a no-brainer. It really is. I mean, why wouldn't I take advantage of this tremendous amount of work that other people have put into this to make sure that to offer something to the dealer body and vouch for it? You got really good and really smart people who are vouching for these different entities. That doesn't that already overcome a hurdle? You've got people that trust, and have a connection with who have vouched for it. So to me, it says a lot.
Yeah, you just kind of answered. I was going to ask you kind of what your thoughts were on how the shop maybe stands out from a traditional way of discovering vendors? Because obviously an online shopping experience, I don't think there's anything else like it in automotive retail. And, you mentioned things like, Shortcut, but it's vetted and it's trusted people and, dealers, as I understand it, the dealers, just like yourself, maybe you are one of them, are also providing input into how this is being built and how it ends up going to market for then folks like yourself to get the most out of it, which I think is really great. So can you share an example of a vendor or solution from the shop that's delivered value for your dealership?
Absolutely. We've used it for multiple things, and we're looking at other things that we're going to use it for. We've used it for Comply Auto. I mean, we moved from another compliance over to Comply Auto through FordDirect, through the shop. We use it for our one step for our network security. I never would have found one step had they not been in the shop. And the difference in the network people we had before and One Step, the screen's not broad and is not wide enough for me to tell you the difference. The people at One Step, Tim, Peyton, these guys have gone over and above. Gone beyond anything and been right there for us the whole time. They're kind, they're considerate, they know what we're doing. They have been so helpful in facilitating in getting us working on our network, our security and our compliance and making sure that we're protected and presenting things that we probably wouldn't have known about otherwise. So I'm beyond pleased with everything I've done through the shop. Has been a success, and incredibly satisfied with the people the vendors that we've gotten with through the shop.
That's excellent to hear. The shop emphasizes being a trusted, like future ready partner. What's your take on how they help dealers move with the market instead of chasing it?
I think back to what we were saying, but they've vetted. They've got an eye on the future and they've got an eye on what's coming. And so we're not talking about a reiteration of something we've seen in the past. We're looking forward and what's a better way of doing what you need to do? What can help your business and help you facilitate your directions and get better? Because we all talk about getting better. And when we have solutions like this, again, back to the trusted, it saves us time, but we know that there's a point to what they're doing. There's a meaning to what they do. What they're doing is related to what we do for a living, what we do every day. But nobody's using an iPhone 1, so we're looking forward to the next iteration of what's available and the next generation of the technology that's coming. And they're doing that. And they're a lot smarter than I am. I have to do my side of the desk. And when you have people out there who are that smart, that committed, and a little shout out, Courtney and Beth are incredibly committed to the shop. And it's really their passion and drive for this is incredibly admirable. They're going to make sure this thing, it's going to walk and it's going to run and it's going to do what it needs to do. And it already is in many, many ways. Where we've gotten to so far is already so great. It's a really helpful, useful, and trusted way of going. I'm really pleased with it, and I'm really impressed with the way we're going. And I know it's going to continue to speak to things we don't even know we want or need. And that's the cool thing where, we're thinking we're trying to solve this problem. And then here's a solution that solves all these problems that cause that issue. You never know. And I really like that.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Well, my last question, I think it's maybe a super important one, but that is for other dealers who are still hesitant or maybe even unfamiliar with the shop as it's still a baby growing up, what advice or insight would you share to encourage another dealer, another retailer to give it a real serious look?
Honestly, I believe others like myself are going to be incredibly open to something like this. The things that are there are going to answer a lot of the questions. And if you're looking for technology to move forward, if you're looking for futuristic, what's coming next, or if you're looking for something that fills a hole in what you already have, chances are it's there. There's something there that will help. It's worth your time to take a few minutes and see what's there, especially if you have a need. But even if you don't, it's worth your time to look at it. We know they're growing it. They've asked me, what are some of the things that you might want to see in there that you'd like to see? And I tell them, you can go there and find a solution that will help you right now. So I would say just give it a shot. And I think you'll find something there that's definitely worth your time. It might answer your question. It might really put an ease to a concern. It might answer a question. It might spark an idea and think, ooh, I could use this. I don't think anybody that's going to see this is a dealer who doesn't want to get better. We all want to get better. We all want to sell more cars. We all want to do more service. So we all want to continue to do better than we are. And there's opportunities there that will help you get better and can really facilitate that initiative.
I love it. Kip, thank you so much for taking the time to share your experience and insights. It's always, for me, it's inspiring to hear from a dealer who's not just honoring a very significant legacy, but actively building an awesome future. So I appreciate your perspective on the shop as well, your leadership that you bring to both Hooks Lincoln and the broader industry. Thank you very much for today.
Well, I appreciate it. I'm honored. I'm very honored. And, as much as our heritage has driven us, the future drives us even more. And that's my wife and my kids. And hopefully one of them will want to take this chair one day, and it'll be theirs to take. There's no greater motivator than my family and everybody's family. That's who we love the most. That's what we do the most for. I appreciate the time, and I'm honored to have the opportunity to speak about this.
Pleasure's been all mine, sir.